agreement most certainly fits in. We talked about the other links between our two nations and the desire to keep growing those links, the people-to-people links, and we've talked about the work we do regionally and globally, including with a direct discussion on circumstances on the Korean Peninsula.
Yes. Further to that, and in recent days a number of people have asserted that there are either problems or issues or concerns about Australia's relationship with China. Did the President raise any concerns about any aspect of the relationship at all?
No. No, and the tenor of the meeting, was one of confidence in the relationship now, references to the strength of the relationship now, and references to the desire to keep building on today's relationship ever stronger for the future. The President at one point reflected on the past 40 years and talked about developing a vision for the next 40 years.
Can you put a time limit on when the free trade agreement might be finalised? Are we talking still years away?
It doesn't work on the basis of setting artificial deadlines. Negotiating trade agreements is complicated. It's particularly complicated when you're talking about, economies with many interests. Obviously, New Zealand was in a position to conclude a free trade agreement with China. The New Zealand economy is differently structured to our own. With the diversity of our economy, with the diversity of the Chinese economy, it's not surprising that there are sensitivities that need to be worked through.
How much importance do you put in a currency deal with China for direct conversion of Aussie dollars to renminbi?
Well, look, that wasn't the subject of, in terms of our economic trades and exchanges, we certainly talked about that today. In terms of, mechanical arrangements, that wasn't the subject of the discussion today.
Did you raise with the President the fate of Australians or the situation of Australian citizens in detention or in jail here in China? If so, what did you ask of him? What did you say? And what sort of response did you get?
As I indicated at the commencement of the trip, given different spheres of responsibility, it's appropriate to raise those matters with Premier Lee, so they were not raised today.
Prime Minister, we're still getting to know President Xi. The world is he's such a powerful figure. Can you, beyond policy, can you give us some sense of your sense of him as a human being, his demeanour? What was your sense of the man?
I've had the opportunity to meet President Xi before in his earlier capacity. I'm not here to, try and psychoanalyse someone, but in my dealings with him, both in his earlier capacity and today as President, he is a figure of intellectual and policy substance, as you would expect. He's a person, I think, with a keen eye for the future and a vision for the future. He brings to the table a deep understanding of Australia, having had the opportunity to visit so broadly in Australia, and that is all to the good for the future of our relationship.
What did you make of his speech to the plenary today and the way that he's positioning China in the region? His comments today.
Well, I think some of the themes that came into our meeting reflected and were on the same topics as he dealt with in the speech, particularly the fact that we have shared responsibilities, that is, all of us in the region have shared responsibilities, indeed heavy responsibilities for peace and stability in the region, and that requires having the right mechanisms and the right mindset to work through difficulties when they occur from time to time.
Sorry. Did the President raise the past issue of Huawei and the Australian decision to refuse the investment in Australia on national security grounds? Or in a general sense, did he raise the Defence White Paper in the past and the issues Australia has had with the Chinese in terms of security?
The answer is none of the above.
Prime Minister, how long did you go for? And how would you describe the sort of cordiality?
It was almost 45 minutes in length, and it was, a positive exchange. I mean, we are dealing with weighty topics, so you expect people to be at the table focused and serious, and that's exactly what we were doing. There was the occasional, joking reference, certainly a spirit of humour about how good it would be to get the President to Tasmania, and he reflected that in an earlier role there was a sister province relationship with Tasmania. So he joked that that should be the state of Australia where he spends most of his time. I'm not sure that that's necessarily going to be possible, but there were some light-hearted references to that. But you're dealing with weighty topics. They require a business-like demeanour, and that's what we had.
The language you described about what he said about North Korea sounds to be almost identical to what's been said many, many times before. Are you disappointed that there doesn't seem to be any movement in China's position, contrary to what some backbenchers have been saying?
Well, the sense I got out of the meeting and the sense we've had.
All right, we've lost the live link from China, unfortunately. The Prime Minister was speaking there on Hainan Island. Now, Julia Gillard says she's had positive discussions with the Chinese President Xi Jinping. She says she's made it clear to him that Australia is committed to building a stronger relationship with China. And she says the President also expressed he wanted to take that relationship to a new level. Now, a free trade agreement was on the agenda after 8 years of talks. More talks are scheduled, and the Prime Minister says there are lots of industries and issues to work through. These are pictures from earlier on when the Prime Minister was meeting with Xi Jinping. We are hoping to get those pictures back, but we might not be able to re-establish that link. Now, North Korea was also mentioned during the talks that the Prime Minister had with Xi Jinping. Julia Gillard says the President shares Australia's concerns about security on the peninsula. China continues to urge calm and restraint. And Ms Gillard says Xi Jinping is a figure of intellectual and policy substance, a person with a keen eye and a vision for the future. And we've learned that the Chinese President has been to every Australian state except Tasmania. The Prime Minister hopes that he'll be able to return there